Everyone, this is Frank DiMora. I'm going to be answering a question that came on my site, my prophecy site, which is www.themoraministry.com. This came in from Amanda. Her question was this, and I quote, "Hi, I tried to email you this headline that reads, Obama administration tells Israel Iran's nuclear threat not imminent, but it wouldn't let me. It said something about Israel to bomb Iran highly unlikely, and that it would take a year for Iran to make a bomb. I wanted to know your opinion on it." So what I did is when you go to my website, you'll see that there's a video. The video was made by the Share Trend, and it talks about this news article that came out today. So my opinion is this. First of all, we were told in the news for the last week that there's a good possibility, because the Russians were going to fire up this nuclear facility that they have been building for Iran. And it was supposed to be fired up on August the 21st, just a few days from now. As a matter of fact, today is the 20th, so it's supposed to start up tomorrow. And according to the news article now, showing that the threat, this is not as imminent as they thought it was, according to the United States, trying to release or relieve the pressure on Israel to attack before the 21st. Now, first of all, I found out one thing that is true. Whatever we see coming out from the government usually turns out to be wrong. They've been telling us that the economy's on the mend, the jobs are increasing, and everybody knows that is nothing but a lie. Now, obviously, if you're a politician and you don't want to scare people, you're not going to tell them the truth. You're going to try to cover it up and put nice frosting over it. But eventually, now because of the web, we have sources that is undeniable. The truth is let out, everybody knows. And so when the government tells you that jobs are increasing, and you find out that this month alone 500,000 people have lost their jobs, obviously you know the truth. So when the United States government says, well, don't worry about Iran, it's not a problem, that causes a problem, because there's no credibility. Now, Israel, according to my opinion, even if that were the case, and Iran had a whole year before they were able to produce a nuclear weapon. Obviously, the president of Iran has stated over and over again, and I've given you all these documents on my post and several of my posts in the last couple of years, where he's even stated that he wanted to wipe Israel off the face of the map. So, say for example, they don't attack. Israel does not attack by the 21st. Well, all this does now, it takes the 2-day period, which the Iranians would think that Israel is going to attack, and it now gives Israel the element of surprise, because if the Iranians think that Israel may attack now within the next year instead of the next 2 days, obviously Israel is going to pick a time when it's going to best suit them to attack the Iranian facility. And I believe that they will attack that Iranian facility, and it will come as a surprise. Now, I don't look for the next 2 days, because obviously the Iranians would think that that's when it's coming. And if a good military strike would hit you when you least expect it. So I don't anticipate in the next few days, at least, that there's going to be a strike. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But we do know, according to the scriptures, that Iran is going to come against Israel based on the Ezekiel prophecy. But they will not be the people who lead the attack. It will be the Russians who lead the attack. Now, because of the nuclear facility being built by Russia, being supplied by Russia, and given the expertise, the scientists behind the facility to run the facility, to make sure everything's going right, and the new military pacts that Iran has with Russia, it's obvious that there's a hook that's being placed in the jaw of Russia. And if in the very near future Israel does attack Iran's nuclear site and wipes it out, it could be the hook in the jaw that drags the Russians down into Israel. Now, when you look in Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 4, and it says, "And I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, and all them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them wielding swords." So God is going to drag them in. And I'm thinking, because of these military ties and the allegiance between the Russians and the Iranians now, and in my book you'll understand that the Russians even call themselves an Islamic nation because they have so many Islamic people living, or Muslims living in Russia now. And so Russia may be forced to come down and retaliate against an Israeli attack. Now, I believe that this will be the second war. So let's look at it this way. Hypothetically, Israel could at any time now, in the next 2 days or the next 6 months or whenever they choose, to wipe out this nuclear facility before it gets fired up, before Ahmadinejad is able to get the bomb. That would cause immediate reaction from the bordering nations of Israel who have ties with Israel or ties with the Iranians, like the Hezbollah, the Hamas, the Lebanese, and the Syrians, who all have pacts with Iran. And they would immediately counter that attack that Israel just did on Iran, and you would see the Psalm 83 war fulfilled first. Now, that is coming at a time right now where Israel and the United States, as we're reading today, that they're trying to get direct talks established again. That was in the news today. So Paul's prophecy in 1 Thessalonians 5:3, it says, when they are talking peace and safety, sudden destruction come. That could apply right now because that's what they're doing. They're talking peace and safety. But the war has to happen at the time that they're talking peace and safety. That's what we see in the prophecy, because it says, the second part of 1 Thessalonians 5:3, sudden destruction will come. That hasn't happened yet. That will happen in the very near future. The bordering nations will attack Israel, and then Israel will feel fairly secure. And at that time, as we also read it in the book of Ezekiel, the next war, that the hook in the jaw from Russia drags them down, the Iranians, the Libyans, the Turks, they'll come in with the rest of the nations mentioned in that prophecy, coming against Israel, and they will be destroyed in the mountains even before they can get into Jerusalem. God is going to intervene in that war, and Russia and all these armies that come down with her will be destroyed. Only 1/5 of the army will be left standing to go back where they came from. So in hindsight, what's going to happen, only God knows. We do know that these wars are near. We're seeing more mortar attacks on the borders between Israel and Lebanese. We see that that whole area is mounting with tension, and I believe that the 1967 borders that the Palestinians want and the East Jerusalem, they're not going to get it, and that's what might entice this attack against Israel. So we just need to be ready. We need to be waiting, watching the Lord, understanding what He told us to look for, because the Lord is coming. When we see these prophecies are fulfilled, that tells us we're very, very close to the second coming of the Lord. So I hope that answers the question. And if you do have questions, email me those questions, and I'll do my best to put up some more videos to answer your questions. God bless.